Welcome to the Scoop World Order. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Saturday. The weather is great in Central Ohio. For all you around, I hope you guys are outside having a good time today. David Sanders, are we the new leader? It's looking very promising. He is finishing up in unofficial Georgia. Georgia has been eliminated from what I've been told. So it's going to be down to Ohio State and Clemson. In Ohio State, I'm just telling you, when someone's role model is a left tackle from Ohio State who went in the first round a couple years ago, it definitely helps your case, especially when the kid wants to get on that exact same track. So we're going to break that down, watch a little bit of his film, and take your questions as always. We have a Father's Day gear drop coming tonight at 8 p.m. The link is in the bio. Repthescoop.com will be live at 8. But the link is in the bio. So I'm really excited for it. It's all new stuff that you guys requested, Carhartt stuff, Under Armour stuff, white Nike hat. So some really good looking stuff for Father's Day. So treat someone special and get them some nice looking gear. Really excited about it. The last merchandise drop was incredible. Appreciate all your support. Wasn't sure if I want to do one this quick, but I had a lot of requests for Father's Day. So it'll all be to you easily in time for Father's Day as a Father's Day gift. So very excited about that. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a lot of stuff that you guys had personally requested, so you guys can take a look at it. As always, we appreciate you guys watching each and every night. This will be a huge show because you guys make it a huge show, and we never forget that. So thank you. As we grind on here 7 days a week, man, we're always talking Ohio State football 365 days a year. So we appreciate you being on here each and every night with us. So thank you. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate all that you guys do for this channel, and we appreciate how much it's been growing. If you guys could subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast formats, which is Apple, Spotify, any of those, that is a huge help for us through Spreaker. So thank you for all that you guys do. And let's get ready to roll with some of your questions. Nevada. The David Sanders update, you can tell that he's going to shape up to be, just because of not only his stature as potentially the best player in the country, but playing tackle, specifically left tackle. This is going to be the guy that I think people are going to be as focused on as any heading down the stretch of recruiting. What are the updates you have on David Sanders? Because we got some new intel finishing up at official Georgia. I've been told Georgia's out. I don't even think Georgia knows that they're out, but I've been told that they're out. So we got some good contacts. What have you been told?
Yeah, I mean, from a source extremely close to the situation, I was told that Ohio State is now the heavy leader, has moved from the leader to the heavy leader to land David Sanders, and it certainly seems like it's. I mean, I've been kind of skeptical, Hippo, on Dave that he would end up here. Did not seem like the type of kid that we would get, but then I slowly started to change my mind based upon his interactions with Ohio State, his interactions with people close to Ohio State, his interactions with the Johnsons. I mean, he just kind of moves slowly there, and now I'm to the point where I'm kind of excited about it, and that's quite a change for me because, like I said, I was not there a while back. Excited about his play, excited about him as you can see the talent's just oozing off the screen when you watch him on there. You can see why everybody's so excited about him. You can see why he's a consensus #1 overall type of player. But now I'm genuinely excited about the prospects of him being at Ohio State. Nothing in the recruiting life with the with NIL and everything else is guaranteed. There's no such thing as a lock anymore in recruiting. But I really think that we're going to get David Sanders, and my confidence level, whatever the confidence level meter is, it's definitely moved up for me based upon this latest information that I got as of today. So very, very excited about it. Very, very excited to see where Ohio State goes with David Sanders.
I think that the Paris Johnson thing is really intriguing to me because it's kind of like you have like an insider. He really, really is getting tight with Paris. Obviously, Paris is in Arizona, but Paris is exactly what he wants to be. He wants to be a 3-and-out guy. He wants to be a first-round pick. He wants to play a left tackle. Again, you look at Clemson's offensive line production. There hasn't been much in the last 15 years. I mean, I can't think of. I mean, Jackson Carman went second round, but he's been an absolute flop, an absolute bust in the NFL. So really, he should have been more of an undrafted free agent type kid. But if you look at the guys that Ohio State's put in the league, especially tackle, especially with Dewan and Paris and what they're doing, Nick Petit-Frere is going to start for the Titans this year. There's a lot to like. There's a lot of guys that I think you could point to with recency bias, because I think that's important to go through the entire process and say, okay, well, yeah, it's great that Orlando Pace played here. That's awesome. But that was, 5 offensive line coaches ago, 1995. What have you done in the last 3 or 4 years? And Ohio State's, production really at all positions over the last 10 years, really since, Urban Meyer took over, is as good as anybody in the country at any position, which is crazy. You talk about corners, you talk about offensive tackles, you talk about receivers, obviously. Running backs, we've had some good ones, obviously, with Ezekiel and JK. I think Trey will be the next one. Quarterbacks have been fantastic with Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, the late Dwayne Haskins being a first round pick. So I think that that's something that you point to because, again, I can't stress this enough. This is a business decision. This is something where, guys they're making short sacrifices. Like, guys that are from Florida, South Florida, hey, they're moving to Ohio for 3 years because they want to go to the league because Brian Hartline's got the perfect situation to develop guys. He's got a lot of character in that room. He's got a lot of great work habits in that room, and it rubs off and it teaches these young guys how to be pros. And I think that that's something that you look at what Paris, as I've said a million times, is a kid that does everything the right way. He's razor sharp, really smart. Everything he does is from a great scope of humility and being a great person. Like, he went to a war memorial the night before the draft. He's always thinking forward as to what would make a great impression. How can I give back? Being selfless. And I think that that's genius, and David Sanders he's a lot like Paris. He's a kid that's ready-made to play left tackle. He's really, really sharp. He's really, they're astute to the game. Some families they chase fast cash. They chase the bling. But I think David Sanders is chasing, being a first-round pick, and where's he going to go that's going to develop him? And I think that, Ohio State the two things I look at are what's the recent development track at my position if I'm a kid like David Sanders, and what are the odds that the guys that are there throughout my career? And, Justin Fry is very tight with Ryan Day. Obviously, this is a big year for Justin, but Ryan's not going anywhere. He's got a big contract, long-term. So, Ryan's not going anywhere. So, I mean, that's something I'd look at if I'm a kid like him is this coach going to be here for my 3 years? Yeah. And I mean, I think Dabo, obviously, with Clemson being one, he seems like he's there, but I think that some of his stuff might be wearing a little thin with the Clemson faithful. And obviously, they haven't been anywhere near as good as they were when they were on the juice, and also with franchise quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. So, it's going to be interesting, but I think our NIL is going to step up to the plate with the foundation. And I also think that, the Paris Johnson thing is very, very real, along with Monica Daniels, who's Paris's mom. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting and intriguing situation. Nevada, this has a chance to be a really big-time offensive line class. How important is this class for Ryan Day, Justin Fry, Ohio State in general?
Well, I think it's really important, but I want to ask you the question as the old offensive lineman. Why do you think that Ohio State's had any challenge in terms of recruiting offensive linemen or big time offensive linemen as of late? Do you believe it's just a function of a lack of great Ohio offensive linemen, a lack of recruiting acumen, lack of promotion of players, what can it be? Because when you look at the success of the number of guys that we've had drafted or sent to the league or whatever, it's been in abundance, and we're Ohio State, obviously known for great offensive linemen, great tradition of running the football. But why do you think there's been any type of, we haven't had that kind of an issue at quarterback. We haven't had that kind of an issue at wide receiver. Why would it happen at offensive line? Just theoretically, without getting specific, why do you think that would be the case?
I generally think it's the mama's boy factor. I mean that 1,000,000%. And I know people can say that's a lazy take or a dumb take, but I've lived it. I've seen it. Again, look at where these guys go. When you look at Georgia, you look at Bama, you look at Texas, where are their linemen from? Georgia, Bama, and Texas. Maybe a couple from Florida. They're not coming up to Ohio very often to get offensive linemen. Like, Georgia's not coming up to Ohio and picking up offensive linemen. So we're going down there and offering a bunch of their linemen, but they're not coming up here and offering any of ours. So, and honestly, that's changed because there's some guys like Sam Greer, Max Riley. We've got some big time guys, but I think that you're kind of, when you're the offensive line coach, you're you're kind of at the mercy of who's close to home. Again, like who are the greatest linemen in school history? Orlando Pace was from Sandusky. Corey Stringer was from Warren Harding. Mike Adams was from Double Coffee. Mike Adams was, I think he ended up the number one player in the country by the time he was done at Rivals. He was obviously a 5-star. So, I think about, and even, DeWand was from Indiana, so DeWand was fantastic. Parrish was from Ohio. Alex Boone was from Ohio. Nick Mangold was from Ohio. I just think that there's something to that. So when you have a weak crop of linemen in Ohio, I think that recruiting is a lot harder. I think that a lot of these guys, they stay close to home. And it's not just thing. Like you look at Urban Meyer, even as amazing as he was as a recruiter, his two best kids were the Pounceys, who are both from Lakeland, Florida, which is very close to Gainesville. So most of his roster was made up of Florida kids, maybe some from the Carolinas, maybe a little bit of Georgia. Didn't do much in Texas, but I think that that's just part of it's just part of the position. I'm telling you, like there's some kids that are it's much easier for them to leave home. They're more independent. They're more showy. And that's why I say, like, with the skill guys, like we've always gotten good skill guys from Florida. Like we got Chris Gamble, Michael Jenkins. I mean, Gamble's recruited as a wide receiver. Michael Jenkins, Santonio Holmes. So, I mean, those guys are literally 3 first-round picks at wide receiver that we've gotten. And obviously Gamble flipped over to DB. But I feel like that some positions are just more apt to go to where they can be developed, or there's more easy to leave home. But I feel like it's the opposite with the big guys. And again, I don't know why that is. I mean, I call it mama's boy effect. These guys don't want to leave their mama. And again, I could just be crazy, but I just look at the statistics. I look at the kids that we lose. I look at, everybody likes to beat Justin Fry and previously Greg Schuwar to death about recruiting. But I'm like, if Justin recruited at Georgia, he'd probably get a lot of these Georgia kids. If he recruited, it's like Brian Kelly is a perfect example. Like Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, where you got to stay in a dorm for 4 years and go to mass every morning, could never get the kids that he's getting at LSU, ever. Now, I know they just lost to Corey Moore, but they get a lot of 5-stars, they get a lot of monsters because a lot of them are from Louisiana. And guess what? Their granddaddy loves LSU, their daddy loves LSU, their mama loves LSU. So guess where they're probably going to end up at? LSU. So, I mean, I think this is how it is. And again, that's why Brian Kelly moved down to the South, because he can get a lot of those big-time Southern D linemen and offensive linemen. Because I know a lot of people make a big stink about the Southern, like the Georgia defensive tackles and the Louisiana defensive tackles. But, their interior offensive line guys are really good too. So it's kind of I think I'm really honest to God, and I know it's such a cop out and it's so lazy for me to say this, but I do feel you're at the mercy of how good is the class of Ohio, the state of Ohio's high school football offensive lineman year over year. And for Justin, he's got a great year this year. We got a good kid from Hoban, a good kid from Avon Lake, kids that are tall, angular tackles, guys that are national recruits that are getting offered by Alabama. And so that's that. Now that is where you got to go. You got to go to town. Like you got to get those guys when they're national guys. Because again, there's a big difference between Max Riley and Sam Greer, who are offered by Georgia and Alabama, versus a kid like JD Duplain. Like for years, I heard about JD Duplain. Again, I don't want to go to town on JD Duplain because I know that his parents might watch the show. But JD Duplain, nice kid, was a rookie minicamp guy. Didn't get drafted. Didn't get. He might have signed a contract after. I don't know. I know he went to rookie minicamp somewhere. But I heard for years how Ohio State whiffed on taking JD Duplain. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see how he does. I mean, Nick Simak went 7th round, which is great. We had DeWand and Luke Whippler and all these other guys that got drafted the year before. And we've had, and again, are we always perfect? No. But did we lose anything because we didn't get JD Duplain and Nick Simak? Also no. But for the last 5 years, I've had to hear about how great those two guys were because they went to Michigan State, allegedly because a stud didn't recruit him or call him. But dude, we took DeWan Jones instead. You can't take every single player that's out there. And, sometimes you think that some guys are better than others. And again, and some we misevaluated on. Again, we looked at the Antoine Winfield Jr. thing where we saw the guys who took over Antoine Winfield Jr. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And he's the highest paid DB in NFL history now. But I don't know, Nevada. I mean, I think that, the truest things in life for me when it comes to Ohio State football are that the offensive line coach is always going to get vilified for being a bad recruiter, unless there's a big a big crop of guys in Ohio. And again, like, I go back to the Brew Crew with Mike Brewster and JB and Mike Adams, because those guys were all seniors when they were seniors in high school when I was a senior in college. So I never played with those guys, but I knew those guys, and then ended up coming back and coaching them in 2010 and 2011. But those, Brew is a different kid again. And I think that if a family has money, like the Brewsters did, it makes it a lot easier to travel to the games. Now, again, this is pre-NIL. With NIL, everything's even. That's why I love NIL, because if you can write one of these kids a check, it's a lot easier for mommy and daddy to come to the games. So but that's my diatribe. But that was, but before, I mean, Brew and JB, like, we weren't really pulling national guys. I mean, even if you look at that 14 offensive line that won the national championship, it's 5 Ohio kids. So I think that's just kind of where you're at. Like when Norwell was in Ohio and we got him, awesome kid. I mean, his parents were great. His parents didn't even know who. It was funny when Ed Warner called Norwell's dad the first time. He didn't even know that Jim Bowman got fired. So that was like a little hilarious anecdote when Ed told me, he's like, yeah, he didn't even know that Jim Bowman got fired. He called him the first time to introduce himself. So sometimes, like I said, you're just at the mercy of what's in state. And again, I don't think that's lazy. I just think that that's accurate, because the thing about recruiting is, it's just like in sales, is the best thing you can get is a quick no. Other than actually getting the sale, getting that quick no, so you're not spinning your wheels chasing kids all over the country that don't have any real thought of coming to your school, is the best thing you can get. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Well, look, recruiting's always been a local business. Recruits generally stay within their area. I mean, with obvious exceptions, but in general, if you want to have, put the highest likelihood of a kid, where a kid's going to go, just look where he goes to high school or where he's from. That's generally where they're going to go. And so if Ohio's down or perceived to be down in offensive linemen, I think that's going to be an issue. But it was funny though, how you talk about that great 2014 line of the 5 Ohio kids, and then Stud comes in, and Stud is vilified as being, by a lot of people, as being like, oh, he was the worst recruiter and blah blah blah. Look at the kids that he landed from out of state. Forget the in-state kids that he landed, but Donnie Jackson, Nick Petit-Frere, Harry Miller, Luke Whippler, Matt Jones. I mean, just Dwan Jones. Just go on and on and on with the guys he landed, and it's so funny that he'd be considered to be such a bad recruiter, considering that he wasn't going after 3-star heaven on the Ohio kids. He was going national, getting national kids, going out there competing for 5 stars and landing them. And even with that, he was criticized. So I agree with your assessment that no matter what an offensive line coach does at Ohio State, they're going to get criticized for whatever reason, because it just seems like it's always been that way. It just seems like it's a position that, unless you line up and all 5 guys pile drive the opposing defense 17 yards down the field, like the movie The Blind Side, and deposit them in the trash can, then we're not blocking hard enough, and they're not doing their job, and we don't have good enough recruits, and that's a problem. But no, it's fun for me to watch. I think Justin Fry is finding his footing. I think Ohio State's gone to an all hands on deck approach, and I think getting Carter Lowe was a nice kind of an anchor to the class. And that would have been a bad one to miss when you have a kid like that, who's a national level talent in the state of Ohio, even though it is Toledo, which is kind of Michigan, Ohio. But he goes up there, lands that kid, and now you potentially pull a David Sanders. Could have the earmarks of one of the better offensive line class, at least on paper, in a while. And that's exciting. I'm excited for Justin. I'm excited for Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. And because I really think we're getting David Sanders. I really, really do. Would I bet my life and my kids and everything that I don't know? But I really do believe we're going to get him, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's it's up to Justin to land a big out of state one. And again, like the Stud thing was always interesting to me, because it's like saying that a guy's a bad sales guy, but you look at the chart at the end of the year for the company and he's at the top of the charts every year. You're just like, well, he's lazy. He doesn't do anything. He's not in the office. He's eating Doritos. He's whatever. But he's at the top of the chart. So he's doing something right. Maybe just knows the right people or can get things done. But I mean, it's funny to say it out loud, but it's like, he was the best recruiting offensive line coach we've ever had. Better than Bowles, better than Ed Warner, better than Justin thus far. Justin could change that if he gets David Sanders and a couple other guys to get in the class. But, I mean, I just look at, if you just go out, add up the star rankings, and if people want to beat poor Trey LaRue to death, that's fine. But what about, if you're going to beat him to death for Trey LaRue, you better give him a lot of credit for Thayer Munford, because he was the only guy in that entire building that wanted Thayer Munford. And Thayer is starting for the Raiders at right tackle as they open mini camps and OTAs. And he also is the only guy that wanted DeJuan Jones. He took DeJuan and is like, you got a 6'8" basketball player that thought he's going to be Oliver Miller in the NBA and turned him into a pass blocking dynamo who started as a rookie and played really well versus some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So you got to give him credit for that, as always. I got to give a shout out to my boy Devin. Devin and Shoaf went fishing today. This is all through our group text. So, Devin, congrats on catching that big thing. I don't know what that is. My dude was out there getting after it today, so I had to give you guys a little shout out for that, because the Scoop crew is all connecting, and so these guys are out fishing all day. I don't know if he's like just reeling this thing in, netting this thing. I'm not a fisher guy, but there you go. I had to toss that on there because those guys are absolutely hilarious, and I love those guys to death. They're hilarious. They always keep me entertained in our little group chat. But yeah, I think that the offensive line recruiting it's amazing because it is a constant point of consternation. And I think that being the offensive line coach is the hardest position at Ohio State because you coach 5 guys on every play. It's the only position where there's 5 guys on the field every play. And if one guy screws up, you suck. Where it's like if you're coaching the running back or the quarterback or 3 wide receivers or whatever, like 2 guys could have complete missed assignments, but if the 3rd guy catches a touchdown, then you're the greatest receiver coach that's ever lived. And that's how it is. Same with, DBs or whatever. It's like, but O-line, man, one guy screws up. It is absolutely hilarious because, again, I always in my head think of, okay, who are going to be the whipping boys this year on the staff? And I'm like, well, it's never like the tight ends coach because nobody cares about tight ends. It's always the 2 coordinators and it's always the offensive line coach. Like you can rank those in ink. And again, I've lived it. I've seen it. You can delete the person, you can fire the coach, put the new guy in, and they'll hate him just as bad as the last guy. And I think it's always kind of funny because, there's always a lot of hype and whatever when guys show up, but by the end, it's funny because not only has every coordinator in Ohio State history been hated, but also every head coach has been hated at one point or another or wanted to be replaced with. And I think that the hardest part for Ryan Day is our fan base doesn't know who they'd want to replace him with at this point because Mike Vrabel kind of bombed out in the NFL, and I'm sure he'll be back, working a good job next year in the league. Luke Fickell didn't light the world on fire at Wisconsin. Matt Campbell, his star, has kind of crestfallen a little bit at Iowa State. He was the hottest guy in the world 5 years ago, and now it's kind of taking a little bit of a dive. And there's people at places like Iowa State that's lucky as could be to have Matt Campbell that they don't even want Matt there. But I just think that's kind of the natural kind of cycle of dealing with coaching and coordinator hires in Ohio State football. Nevada, this is we're getting into workout time. The guys got their first week back after a 3-week vacation. Summer camps are coming. There's some big names coming back. Jakeem Stewart's coming back. There's going to be a lot of camp guys, and camps have really devolved from the olden days. And I'm not going to go too far in the Wayback Machine because I know you guys hate when I do that, but I had lunch with David Patterson yesterday. David Patterson is one of my best friends. He was a captain in 06. He was captain of the team that beat the 1-2 Michigan team. We were in the same recruiting class. I redshirted, David didn't, so I had 1 year afterwards. Really, David should have redshirted too because he barely played as a freshman. But we were talking about camp, and I've talked to you guys about advanced camp and how important the advanced camp was. And he told me the funniest thing ever yesterday because I told him he already had his offer, and back then with Trust, man, he didn't offer 80 people. He offered 30 people, 25 people, and the day I went there, man, I was trying to get an offer, so I was balling, and I was beating down Sheon Cotton and all these guys, and I love Sheon, he's my boy, but I was beating those guys down in these drills, in these one-on-one pass rush drills. David said to me the funniest thing yesterday. He said, "Kirk, man, I never told you this." And I'm gonna put him on the podcast. I'm gonna ask him this so he could recount this. It was the funniest thing. He said, I did not want the smoke from you that day at all because you were killing everybody. And I was like, dude, I told you because like that I was trying to get that offer, man. And it's like you can't lose reps in one-on-one pass rush. You gotta, lock dudes up. And I was killing guys in that drill. But it was the funniest thing ever is David actually said that to me. And he's like, you were like, he's like, man, I knew when I went against you, he's like, I knew I was gonna get that work. And that work means like I'm gonna like beat you down today. And he's like, it was like you, Nick Mangold, and Rob Sims were the three dudes that like I always knew I was gonna get that work from. And I was like, good. I mean, it makes me feel good because again, what guys I always tell you guys, like the players know who the players are. And David was a fantastic interior pass rusher. And we talked a lot about the '05 team yesterday, and he's like, '05, he took one for the team and he played defensive end when he should have been he should have hit the he should have hit the three technique spot. So yeah, it was crazy. But I was so happy to see Dave. He lives in LA now, so of all places. So he's out there remarried, and it's absolutely fantastic. Nevada, do you remember David Patterson?
Oh, of course. I thought he was an underrated player for sure at Ohio State. Guy, he's not in the pantheon of greats, but boy, he was a good, solid player on some really good teams, and always brought it. And I always loved his effort. Tough kid, and super productive kid. And I remember. I'm old enough to remember when he was recruited, when he committed. I remember all of it. So I'm definitely getting up there in age for sure.
He was a guy that I honestly thought would have been like I thought he had a good career at Ohio State, but I thought when we were getting recruited, I thought he was gonna be like a first round pick. I thought he was gonna be like Warren Sapp because his pass rush was crazy. When we were like the high school camps and stuff, like guys couldn't block him. I mean, he never lost the rep of one-on-one pass rush because he was super explosive, but his body type, he's a guy that he didn't have a ton of size and bulk. He was an undersized guy, but he wasn't like an undersized, like ultra strong guy like Aaron Donald. So he's the guy that I honestly thought was gonna be a lot better in college, but I still love him to death. And he was a captain, and had a great career. But man, when we were coming up, man, I thought he was gonna be like first team All American and be a first round pick and all that. And he got hurt in the NFL, didn't last for long in the NFL, but like I said, he was a great player. And I mean, he was a guy that was always a pain to block. And again, that's not why sometimes like there's some guys that they're better, they're really, really good in college, and for whatever reason they don't make it to the league. And David was like that. Mike Kudla was like that. There's certain guys that you play against and you're like, this guy's, I got to the league and I was like, man, half these guys aren't as good as Mike Kudla. More than half, like 75% of them aren't as good as Mike Kudla. Because Kudla, like when you went against him, man, it was every rep was treacherous and tough, and he was always on, always effort, really as strong as an ox. But he had short arms. Like that was the one thing you could get him on is you could outreach him, but you couldn't let him get going in space and then hit you with a bull rush because he'd put you into orbit. And he did that to Ryan Harris because when we played Notre Dame, it was crazy because Coots didn't get drafted, but he got 3 sacks versus a second round pick offensive tackle, or it might have been a third round pick. Ryan Harris, he went like second or third round. I'm like Mike Kudla didn't get drafted, and he destroyed that guy. But again, it is what it is. As we get into, the summer conditioning, the camp stuff, Nevada, have you ever gone to an Ohio State camp? I was curious. I've never asked you this. I don't think I have. Have you ever actually been to an Ohio State camp?
I actually have been to an Ohio State camp. I was at an Ohio State camp back during the Brew Crew days, and when all those kids were being recruited, because that was when it was kind of exciting because the kids would go and people were waiting for offers and they weren't sure who was going to be in the class and where they were going to go and who was going to earn the offer and who wasn't going to get it, and so much intrigue back then. And I think with the camp thing, the way that everything's been set up now, it's kind of taken a lot of that out of it. And I think it's probably because these schools are more efficient. They know what they want to do. The camp schedule is a little bit off right now. I mean, now summers used to be the exclusive domain of camps, and now summers is official visits time. So the whole calendar's been kind of turned on its head. But yeah, no, my one and only time was during the Brew Crew recruitment, and enjoyed that very much. And Uh, I can't say that I want to go back to another camp
No.
anytime
Oh
soon.
God.
No, I mean, again, been to the Elite 11s here in Manhattan Beach, and even that, like you go and you've been one time and you're like, oh man, it's just a lot of people running around sweating, and um, you know, it's hard to get too much out of something like that unless you have a direct situation where you have a player A versus player B thing, and you're doing a contrast and compare. It's really hard to get much out of that.
Yeah, I think that the hardest part about the camps is I feel like they've all been sped up so much because of, again, you said the official visits are in the summer. So if you're a senior and you've already got your offer, no reason to camp again. I think that there's a, maybe a small segment of of the coaching. And again, I might be crazy, and you say, Kirk, you're crazy. You know what you're talking about, but a lot of these kids that are seniors that are Ohio State commitments, like they don't even work out at the camps anymore. They come and they'll do like a little personal workout. Like I watched Luke Montgomery and Austin Sireveld and all these guys, like they were all committed to Ohio State, and they didn't even go do the regular camp where they went against the D linemen and stuff. They literally just did a side workout. And I was like, I guess that's where we're at now. Like, I mean, 'cause again, I don't know if they don't want the kids to get hurt. They don't want them to get embarrassed. I don't know what it is, but those kids could all use more work. But if you already have the offer, again, it's kind of the ultimate catch-22. It's kind of like with what Marvin Harrison just did at the NFL Combine. Like if I'm Luke Montgomery and Cyril, those guys that I'm already committed, like why would you go out there and potentially have a bad camp? Say you have a bad day and you lose a bunch of reps and you look like trash. Why would you want to give those coaches any doubt to work out again? It's kind of like with Marvin. Marvin skipped everything. He didn't do any of the drills. He didn't do a pro day. He didn't do any team visits. And he went fourth overall. And it was perfect because he's like, just look at the tape. Here you go. Ready to rock. Let's rock. And he went fourth overall. It didn't hurt him at all. Now, again, you got to be a special dude to do that. But like, if you're to the point where you're committed to Ohio State, like, I don't see what the real benefit is to working out at Ohio State again, especially in the competitive drills, because those are the ones where guys can get hurt. I mean, again, because you're getting bull rushed and that kind of stuff. And again, it's fine. Again, I did it. I was at camp for 5 straight days at Ohio State because in the olden days they had commuter camps. So it was like you could do. I did a full 3-day camp to learn how to get ready for the advanced camp because like I didn't know how to pass block, so I had to learn and do all the drills and do one-on-one pass. So I took 1,000 reps before the advanced camp guys showed up. I was literally there for 5 straight nights. It was crazy. And, was it worth it? Of course. But was it a grind? Yeah. I mean, it was, because I wasn't there to take it easy. I mean, I took every drill like it was, I was as serious as a heart attack every day. And it was good because again, it just, it got me ready for advanced camp because advanced camp, I mean, you're playing the best guys in the country. And, you don't want to, Mario Williams is at my advanced camp. So you got to block him. You got to block guys that are just, monsters. And there were some guys I was like, God, these guys, they look like they're 25 years old, and you're going against them and you're locking them up, and those reps that you spent were really actually worth it. But I think that the camp thing has gone kind of by the wayside at this point. Unless you're young. If you're young, if you're freshman, sophomore, it makes sense to camp, go around, do that whole shebang. But man, like other than that, it is it's just an interesting deal because we need I wish the camps still meant as much, but they really don't. And again, the thing that they do now that's even better in the state of Ohio is they have these showcases where like Akron Hoban had one the other day, and Jim Knowles was there, and Justin Fry was there because they were checking on Sam Greer and the linebacker we got committed. And it's so you get a lot of looks at these kids a lot easier than you did back in the day, because back in the day it was like you had some grainy VHS tape or some grainy Betamax tape that you had to watch, and then you got to go try to find the kid and get eyes on him. But now it's like you've got digital 4K huddle tape all over the place. You've got these Under Armour camps, these Nike camps, these all these raw talent camps, and then you've got these showcases now. And in the South, you've got spring football. So I think you get a lot of the evaluating done, and then they try to get them to camp just to confirm some of it. But the hard part about camp, like at Ohio State, is it's not even in pads. So when you're doing stuff with the linemen, like they're not even in pads. So they can do some drills, but they're literally usually in helmets and just t-shirts. So and when I did camp back in the day, We didn't even have helmets on. I personally don't even think they should wear helmets because I think it actually is more dangerous to wear helmets than not wear helmets. Because again, if a guy bull rushes someone and breaks one of these guys' collarbones, then that doesn't help the high school coach. Because the one thing that these coaches think about constantly, you kind of like say a prayer on the rosary every morning before these camps start, is that none of these kids get hurt. Because like it's hard to to have some kids down here from Massillon or from St. Ed's and they blow a hamstring or hurt their knee or whatever, because these are live drills. I mean, these are very, very, anything can happen on a football field. Anything can happen anywhere, but it's like on a football field, guys get hurt, and every day at camp, there's guys that are leaving camp early, getting ice. Hopefully, nothing too bad. But we've had a guy get his knee blown out, and then he misses his senior year. But that's part of the price of competition, I guess. So, yeah, I think that as we get into camp season, it's gonna be interesting to see who shows up from an offensive line perspective. A lot of the guys that we have are already offered. So again, I feel like the guys that are offered by Ohio State, like they very, very rarely show up and work out, especially the guys that are like the higher rated guys. They don't work out. Like the lower rated guys, like I saw Josh Padilla work out the 1 year. Luke Montgomery worked out going into his junior year, but didn't work out going into his senior year. So I think this is kind of what it is now. I don't think that these older guys like to work out, or they don't have to work out. And Nevada, but I'd love your thought on that, because you've dealt with, obviously kids getting recruited, and you don't want to give people a reason to have a second thought on you, because again, we see it. I mean, we just saw Jaden Woodby was asked to say goodbye to the class. I mean, we see that we process one or two kids every year that have been committed and good stewards of the program, but we recruit over them, and kind of is what it is. But what are your thoughts on the camp thing? If you had a son committed to Ohio State football or anywhere, like, is there a benefit to going to a camp and potentially not having your best day and giving the coach second thoughts on you?
Well, look, it's a great point, and it's one that I've thought of often. As you're aware, I have a kid that's in the midst of a heavy recruitment right now, and I think it depends on where you're at. If you're like a blue chip, if you're really good, if you're Marvin Harrison Jr., if you're the top player in your age group or whatever it is, I think you want to give people as few chances to see you as possible, because familiarity breeds contempt, and the more they see, the more they can pick you apart, the more they can do it. So there's a sense of kind of like, hey, you don't want to overexpose yourself in the situation. You've already proven yourself. You've already kind of established yourself as elite. So just kind of take a step back and kind of let the thing happen. Now, I think if you're anything but that, if if you're anywhere in the I say lower, but the lower 90% of players right there, I think camp stuff and any type of settings are beneficial, because you can show what you can do. You can stand out. You can do the things. But for Marvin Harrison, when I saw he wasn't working out or doing anything or having measured it, I was like, that is so smart. I mean, that's definitely the meta play, because all they're going to do is pick you apart. There's no sense in terms of doing that. And I would tell anybody with kids that's going through the recruiting process, if your kid's a super elite blue chip player, give him as few looks as possible. If anything but that, give him as many looks as possible, and then let the chips fall where they may. Is your microphone off, Mr. Barton?
Apologize. Yeah, I agree with you on the elite camp thing. I think once you're at a certain spot, it's better just to shut it down, and because everyone's got enough information, and I think that's the way to go. Real quick, this is the QR for our new Scoop shop. I saw Karis, you asked about it, so it is going live at 8 p.m. tonight. I will remind you guys, and there is a link in the bio. I will show you some of the fresh new gear. So we got a white hat. We had a lot of comments. People wanted the white hat. We have a Carhartt hoodie, because I know that I had a ton of people want Carhartt. I love Carhartt. I think their hoodies are great. But those are actually like there's as much, if not more, than the Nikes. I've got a bunch of Carhartt hoodies. They're awesome. Under Armour white T-shirt for all you fishers out there. Super light. Really like it. Under Armour, because I got a bunch of Under Armour requests. So we did a bunch of Under Armour at the shop. Got a nice workout hoodie. Got a nice white polo. so you can get your Urban Meyer on. Got a gray polo. So we got our alternate logos on a couple things. We got the bucket hat. I do not know if it has a string or not. I had somebody ask me that, so there's always one gotcha question. And we also have the Nike Buckeye Scoop visor for all of you golfers out there that want to look outstanding out on the course. So we got some really cool stuff. It'll be opening at 8. So appreciate you guys again. So the QR code is I'll put it back up. But yeah, the t-shirt is fire, like the white tee. I know a lot of people like the Under Armour white tees, so we did it. So yeah, the time stamp is at 40. So literally read it 40 minutes is when I put that QR code up. And the link, let me see if the link is working yet. Rep the Scoop. It takes a second to populate because I just did that before the show. Let me check it real quick. Don't think it's working yet, but the link is in the bio to this. So I put this the Scoop store link. It'll be active literally in like 18 minutes. So you guys will be able to sharp. It'll be open for about a week. We're going to shut the store down just so that you guys get everything in time for Father's Day. That was the most important thing. It's Father's Day gifts. And if you guys want some more of this gear. So we appreciate you guys. Again, we were not planning on doing another store this early, but I had a ton of requests for Father's Day. And people wanted different brands. And I actually asked Doreen. I said, Doreen, should we do a store? And she literally said, you need to do another store. People keep asking. They want some more gear. I was like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, because people want Father's Day stuff. I was like, all right, thank you, Doreen. So shout out to Queen Doreen. But yeah, I think you guys like the gear, and I think it'll be a really good high quality stuff that you guys will be rocking all over the place, and I think it's gonna be awesome. Nevada, yeah, I go back and forth on the camp thing because I think that you can paint it one of two ways. You can always paint it like, oh, the kid's scared to compete. Oh, he doesn't want to come out here and get beat or whatever. But like if I'm a kid, I'm ready to get the offer. I'm already committed. Like I get wanting to come down and hang out and do a little bit of work, but like you don't really need to do any. I mean, you already got your offer. So I get why guys don't do that. Because again, I think that you open yourself up to there potentially being a thought. Well, man, he looked really bad today, or he looked slow, or and then all of a sudden the coaching staff gets up and they're just like, we got to drop this kid, and then they move on to the next kid. So I don't know. I just think that once you've got it locked in, man, if you're at a certain stature, you can only go down. And I think that happens with guys that are in the NFL draft as well. That's why I tell some of these guys, like, dude, go after your junior year. If you can, just go. Like if you're high enough, don't stick. And some of these guys stick, and I feel like they get over evaluated to the point where people think, well, they just pull guys apart to the point where they fall. Like Aaron Rodgers fell to the 24th pick in the draft, and if he'd have left a little bit earlier, might have been higher. I don't know, but maybe I'm just crazy on that one. But I think that some of these guys, if they leave after their junior year, they probably go higher than staying for their senior year and getting over evaluated. So yeah, this is very interesting. Mike Stricker, appreciate you, my man. This is great insight. I coached David Sanders at Providence State High School for 2 years, and he is literally the greatest kid, regardless of talent, and he has a ton. He's a great, mature young man. See, and again, that's why I keep thinking Paris. He's just like Paris Johnson. I mean, they're the same type of kid, like perfect kid, really sharp, really talented, no ego. Doesn't act like a bonehead. So I think that he's I think that this is a kid that you empty the clip for, because this is a cornerstone of the program type guy for 3 years, and a guy that not only do you get him in campus and he could play potentially as a freshman at tackle, but he's a guy that you're going to be pointing to him for the next 6 to 10 years, saying, hey, David Sanders played here. He went in the first round. Don't you want to be the next David Sanders? Same with Paris Johnson. Like he could be that next type of dude. So. Again, I think that, these guys, as they get into the NIL stuff and that type of thing, they want to go somewhere where it's been done before, where they know they're going to win, when they know that they're going to do some big time stuff. And I think that that's why Ohio State is leading right now. And again, I think that, Clemson is kind of a quagmire. I mean, Georgia is getting cut because of their culture is terrible. So, that is not lost on the people around David Sanders, is that their culture stinks. So, you've seen the arrests, you've seen the drag racing and all the craziness. The kids leaving because of NIL, going to Kentucky. Like, that's crazy. And Clemson's culture isn't exactly like the point or the picture of greatness at this point. And they lost a bunch in the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see how good are they this upcoming year. We got a couple super chats. Appreciate you. Deb, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for the 10, as always. Coach Ryan said, this is the time the individuals, we have to become a team. Your thoughts, Nevada OH? So when I hear Coach Ryan, I assume you mean Coach Ryan Day. I'm thinking, I always go right to Tom Ryan when I hear Coach Ryan. But I think that, I think Ryan Day, this is the time where individuals have to become a team. And I think that it's here in training camp, but especially in the summer, because you do a lot of team conditioning drills and they all suck. So you got to push guys, you got to lead guys, you got to be in great shape, you got to be at as close to the front of the pack when you're running these sprints as you can be. And it was something that we all hated conditioning, because conditioning sucks. It's designed to suck because it's getting you in shape. But it is a time where guys have to get better, come together, push through stuff, push through pain. Like I always said, like, the teams are made in the summer. I mean, these weight room workouts, they're not just like, going to Lifetime Fitness and grabbing a towel and getting on the Stairmaster for 20 minutes and then getting a little dumbbell pumping. Like, they're breaking these guys off in the summer, and it's good. Because again, this is the kind of crucible where these guys have to get developed. Nevada, your thoughts? Ryan said this is the time individuals have to become a team. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I think this is one of those times when players are out of sight, and so for people, this is the off season. This is when not much is going on. This is when for fans, this is kind of the dead period. And for players, you can make an argument that this is the most important time. This is when they can make the biggest strides in terms of improving their game towards next year. And it's all done, in the darkness, all behind the shades, not out there on the practice field, but in the weight room, in conditioning and nutrition training. And that's why having a strength and conditioning coach that's operating at the highest level, that has consistency with his players, is so paramount. And it's why I've said it many times, why I'm so excited that we have Coach Mick, and why, for our rival, like up at Michigan, when you lose your strength and conditioning coach, man, you lose kind of the soul of your program. So, when you've lost the soul of your program with your strength and conditioning coach, and then you lose it with your head coach, man, it's like cutting off one leg and then cutting off another arm, and you're kind of going out there and just trying to, figure things out. But it's a struggle. But now is when this is the time you're going to see guys come out of the summer, and they're going to go from, they're going to undergo body transformations. They're going to undergo confidence transformations. Now, with the amount of coaching they can do in the summer, they're going to go through mental transformations. And it all starts now. This is when the work is. There's no off season for college football. There might be an off season for the fans, but not for the college football teams. This is when the iron gets the strongest, is here in the off season. So, yep. But we'll be having our little spies, seeing what's going on, and we'll let you know who's making the big strides during the off season, because this is when we do some of our best work.
Yeah, this is a time where guys definitely can step up big time heading into fall camp. Poohbeard12, thank you for the 10, and thank you for being Ultra member as well. Any updates on special teams? How involved is Ryan Day? Which other coaches have big roles? How is field goal kicking? It's so crazy we didn't go after the guy in the portal unless fielding is Nugent 2.0. Ryan Day is always going to be involved in special teams. I think he's going to be more involved now that he's not the full-time offensive coordinator as well. They divided stuff up the way Jim Tressel used to. So James Laurinaitis does like kickoff, and then, one of the coaches does kickoff return, and then one does punt return, and they all kind of help each other out. So, the new safeties coach, whose name I always mispronounce. It's like Matt Guerini or whatever his name is. He's got one of the units. I don't want to get them scrambled because I know that they said who's got what. I know James is not on punt, which kind of surprised me. I don't know if that's Matt's, the safety coaches. I think Hartline's got something. Obviously Tim Moulton, James, Keenan Bailey. So the guys that have the most body types that are on the special teams, like tight ends, running backs, receivers, safeties, corners, linebackers, their position coaches all coach one of the units or helps. They all have one like dedicated unit. Like I think James is kickoff. And then all the other coaches obviously help out with it. It's not just James out there coaching. They're all out there coaching. And then the offensive line coach, Justin Fry will coach the field goal protection. Larry Johnson will coach field goal block. This is how it's always done at all levels of football. So it's super simple. But I'm sure Ryan's going to have involvement. Again, he let go of Parker Fleming. I thought, especially the way that special teams has devolved in the last 10 years from the kickoff being obsolete, essentially, the punt return being somewhat obsolete. Punt is not obsolete because you still have to coach up the gunners and coach up the sky kick and all that, but it's just a different game. There's a lot of it's a lot more boring because there's a lot of fair catches on the punt game because of the sky kick. It doesn't give the punt guy an opportunity to field it. With the Aussie kicks and all the things that they've added, it's a lot harder to return punts than it was in the old drop back days. And then with the kickoff, Urban always wanted to do that corner kick where it was like the cut kickoff where he'd cut everybody down. You'd see the guys line up in a condensed formation, run down the field. He'd cut it down. He called it the cut kickoff. And then Ryan finally said what we've been saying for years: let's just kick it out of the end zone every single time and make them start on the 25, which I think is the best thing to do. And a lot of these teams even have their kids fair catch and they get the ball on the 25 without having a return. So yeah, I'm excited to see the difference, but I don't think we're going to see any difference with Parker Fleming being gone. So it'll be interesting. Nevada, any updates on special teams? How involved is Ryan Day? Which other coaches have big roles? How is fielding kicking? It's so crazy we didn't go after that guy in the portal unless fielding is Nugent 2.0. Well, and the other thing is, I will mention that the grad assistants are also very involved in coaching special teams. Like Wes Satterfield was the guy that I was a GA with, and he was in charge of kickoff. So I'm sure not the O-line GA, but the other ones, they're all really involved in special teams. But Nevada, your thoughts? Any updates on special teams? How involved is Ryan Day, and which other coaches have big roles? And how is fielding kicking? I think obviously he's kicking good enough that they didn't want to bullet him to get the kid that won the Lou Groza, not the Doak Walker, like I said last time. But I don't know why you don't go after that kid when he's from Miami of Ohio and he's from Cincinnati and you let him go to Alabama. But that's just me. Your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, no, we rang the bell a lot to try to go after the not Doak Walker winner, Lou Groza winner. But it's funny. I talked to somebody who's actually seen fielding kicking, and he's like, "Have you seen fielding kicking lately?" And I'm like, "No, but I can look at numbers and I can look at that." He goes, "Man, I was there. At practice the other day, and he made like 15 in a row, and it was something unbelievable. So he might be Nugent 2.0, and I know he's got a lot of eligibility left. So that I have a sneaking suspicion it wasn't because Ohio State wasn't aware of the kid from Miami of Ohio. It wasn't that Ohio State didn't have NIL money or didn't didn't have his number or anything like that. I just think they like fielding a lot, and that was interesting to me because I didn't know that. I hadn't heard anybody that had ever come in with like a glowing review of his field kicking ability, but I actually got one. I actually got one that said, "Man, he was drilling the ball." Now, again, drilling the ball in practice is a heck of a lot different than doing it, when it counts, when the lights are brightest, when there's 110,000 people screaming at you, when we need it up at Michigan, when it's windy, when it's rainy, when it's for the national championship. But Ohio State, I can just tell you without equivocation that Ohio State likes him a lot and believes in him a lot, and that might be the reason we didn't go after that other kicker.
This is just to close this thing off. This is something it's been very interesting to me with Marvin. So Marvin, we talked a little bit about him. He has still not signed his NFLPA licensing deal, which is somewhat shocking. I think it's a boon for the Chinese jersey bootleggers, because you literally cannot buy Marvin Harrison's Arizona Cardinal jersey in the stores because he hasn't signed his NFLPA licensing deal. So that's a new one for me. I don't think I've ever seen a rookie not sign it. But I think obviously he wants more money, or he wants some different terms or whatever. But yeah, Marvin is a different cat, man. His dad's been around the block, so you're not going to get one over on him and his pops. But yeah, it's weird because I would imagine he'd have probably not the highest selling jersey, but probably one of the top 5 for rookies. Because obviously, when you got a quarterback like Caleb Williams go number 1, he's probably going to be the highest one because he's a quarterback. Then I don't know if Drake May is going to sell, or Daniels, kid from the Commanders or the Washington football team, whatever they're called. But yeah, this is interesting because this means if he doesn't sign, he's not going to be in Madden either. So he's going to be just receiver number 18, like in the old days with Jordan when he didn't sign his NBA deal. So, Nevada, does that surprise you that he hasn't signed an NFLPA deal? Because I've never heard of a rookie not doing that.
Yeah, it's a little curious. I've been kind of digging on that story here for a little bit, to try to find out what the rationale is behind it. Because as you're aware, I've got some fairly decent agent community contacts. I'll get the story. I'll find out what exactly the thinking is, because right now I don't really understand it. But I will get the answers on that, and in a future podcast we'll discuss that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we can wrap this show up. Nevada, any final thoughts? I think Nevada actually accidentally held up, so he already had his final thoughts. So I will wrap this thing up. As always, we appreciate you guys kicking it with us each and every night. Thank you guys so much for being a part of Buckeye Scoop and our Scoop family. Again, if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell, and we appreciate you guys so much for being on here. Scoop Store is now open in 2 minutes, so the link is in the bio. Repthescoop.com will work shortly. I will remind you guys all again tomorrow. It'll be open for 7 days. We will be ready to rock. So as always, we appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoy your Saturday night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you so much, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.